Hi guys, Donal here and welcome back to the kitchen. Today, in collaboration with Arnold Brownberry and Arrow Wheat Buns, we are continuing our summer bun series. I have been loving cooking up indulgent and tasty bun-inspired recipes for you guys, but for this one, I'm going all out with my mini marinara meatball hot dog sub with basil and mozzarella. It is rich in flavor, and the sub-style potato roll I'm using here is the perfect vessel to hold these mega meatballs. Arnold Brownberry and Arrow Wheat Buns are ideal for these kinds of next level sandwiches thanks to their perfect texture and great quality. Right, let's get cooking. So to kick things off, we're going to make a meatball mix that is totally addictive, and it's all about flavor. To create that flavor, we've got a combination of both pork and beef mince going in here. And the beauty of using both these is that you're going to get the sweetness of the pork and then the meatiness of the beef together. Both of these have a nice rich fat content, and it really is important that you use mince that has a good fat content that will really improve the flavor of your meatballs. Now, a good tip, even if you do have mince of good quality like this, is to add something like a pancetta or a smoky bacon with a lot of fat running through it. It's going to give you salty flavor, but it's also going to give you that fattiness that your meatballs require. That goes straight in the bowl, alongside a little bit of flavor in terms of dried oregano, or dried oregano, wherever you are in the world. Sprinkle that in, and while we're on seasoning, let's go in with a little bit of salt and some black pepper, straight in. To bind these meatballs, we're using a combination of breadcrumbs and an egg. So one egg goes in. And I like the fact that this is kind of like, it's an all-in-one meatball mix, and it uses quite a lot of ingredients that you probably already have in the kitchen. Speaking of an ingredient I always have in the kitchen, and one that adds great flavor to meatballs like this, some Parmesan cheese, finely grated, gets added in here for its salty bite and its kind of creamy, rich flavor. So now it's just a case of giving it all a good mix up until you have a nice, smooth, meaty mixture. I always think with meatballs, it's all about the quality of the meat. So if you get really good quality meat, you don't actually need to add too much extra. But those little hits of Parmesan, oregano, you could add some chili flakes in here if you like. But really what you're looking for is something that holds its shape and has that really great meaty flavor. Okay, so once it's kind of roughly mixed like that, time to get the hands in there and get making our meatballs. Now, because these are going into our little potato hot dog buns, I want to make sure that the meatball size is key here. So small enough meatballs that are going to fit in quite nicely and snugly. Right, that's our meatballs ready to rock. So time to fry them off, and I'm going to degunge the hands. Now, when it comes to meatballs, there's a few techniques. First, my favorite way of doing it is to ensure that you brown them off so you get a really nice golden color on your meatballs. The other way you can do it is plop them straight into the tomato sauce to poach, and that leaves you with light, beautiful, tender meatballs. But what we're looking for in this recipe is something that has a bit more texture, and that's what we're going to get by frying it off in our frying pan. So into our non-stick frying pan, a little bit of oil. And remember, there's a bit of fattiness that we've got in our meatballs already, so not too much oil going in here. And really important that your pan is up to a nice high heat. And the way of making sure you know that is just place your hand over it. If it gets to the point where you can't hold it there anymore, that's how you know it's nice and hot. And at this point now, it's not really there yet. So we're gonna add our meatballs in one at a time, brown them off, get them gorgeous and sizzling and golden, and then it's time to make our tomato sauce. Okay, pan is nice and hot. Let's get frying these meatballs. Good way of making sure you're keeping track of your meatballs as they fry off is to put them in a clockwise or anti-clockwise motion in the pan like I've done. And it means that you know that the first one here has gone in, and so that's where you start turning from once they've browned off a little bit. Another little tip with these meatballs is to make sure that the meat is at room temperature before you start, because it means then when you add your meatballs to the pan, they're not having to come up from a really cold temperature and they will basically just start sweating in the pan. Instead, they're cooking out at exactly the right temperature, and you're going to get that really nice browning effect all over. Okay, meatballs are in. I always like to give them a little seasoning as they go in here, so a little bit of black pepper as they are in there, and a bit of salt too. Now, turn down the heat to about a medium to high heat. We're going to keep our eyes on these and make sure that we get that nice brown color all over. Now, like I said, this is why I always put the meatballs in a kind of a circular motion, is because I know that this one is now ready to be flipped while the one that's right beside it is not just there yet. So just keep moving them and turning them as you need to. You want that really nice golden brown color we're looking for, which we're getting. Just look at that, really gorgeous golden brown color on the meatballs, and that is exactly what we're after. Give them a little shake, and remember, these are gonna cook out in our tomato sauce and then in the grill as well, so don't overcook them. As soon as they get that nice golden brown color, we're gonna get them out and leave them to rest. So these babies are ready to come out. The smell of the pancetta, the smell of the oregano. This is gonna be gloriously meaty and the perfect filling for those beautiful buns. Okay, that's all our meatballs, looking pretty good at this point. So we're gonna leave them aside. Now, we're gonna make up a cheat marinara sauce. This is one of the easiest things you can do, and it gives you great results. We're gonna cheat with a little bit of tomato passata or tomato puree, a little bit of red wine to give body to this, some garlic cloves, and finally, a pinch of chili flakes. Chop up your garlic, nice fine slices. You don't have to be precious about this. Really, it's all about adding flavor to the tomato sauce from the garlic. So you could use a little microplane grater if you want to, but I'm gonna get these garlic cloves straight into the oil that's in the pan, back onto the heat, and just a little glug more of olive oil going in here. All you want to do is cook this until that garlic starts to become sort of golden, sizzling, and aromatic. And at that point, you're gonna scrape in all these brown bits you can see on the bottom of the pan. And once they just start to turn and start to kind of catch a little bit of the heat, we're gonna go in there with a little pinch of chili flakes. Now, you can go as hot as you like. I think about half a teaspoon is enough for me, especially if I'm serving it up to a few people. A little bit of heat goes in alongside the garlic, and this is your base flavor. You've got all the meatiness in the bottom of the pan, you've got the garlic sizzling off, and then the chili flakes, and then it's time to infuse our tomato sauce in there as well. To this, we're gonna add a full-bodied red wine straight in there. And now, all you gotta do is sit back, stir, and let that sizzle. Don't forget to season it. A little bit of salt goes in. And because we have the chili flakes in there, we don't really need to add the black pepper, but I always like the roundness you get from black pepper and chili flakes, so I'm gonna add a little pinch in here as well. Give that a good stir. And now, just let it sizzle, bubble, and get really dark and delicious. This tomato sauce has now been bubbling, and you can see it's thickened, it's become a little bit more viscous, and now it's time to just make sure we've got our seasoning right. So we've added chili flakes. I want to add a little bit of the oregano that we have in the meatballs. So about a teaspoon of that goes into the mix, alongside one of the key ingredients that helps any tomatoes, tinned tomatoes or chopped tomatoes, to really come alive. It's just a little pinch of sugar. Depending on the season, and particularly in kind of winter and springtime, the tomatoes just don't have as much flavor. So a sprinkle of sugar will really help amplify their flavor, in the same way that when you add salt to avocados, they really come alive. That little pinch of sugar will just help echo all those great flavors. So give that a little stir through, and we're pretty much where we need to be. I'm just gonna give this a very quick taste. That is what I'm talking about. Really flavorful, rich marinara sauce. I'm gonna turn down the heat now. We're gonna get our meatballs back in, and we're gonna get this tossed through and then into the oven with some cheese. And like I said, you could serve these meatballs just as they are, straight to the table with some crusty bread or some freshly cooked pasta. But to make these into something that is truly special, marinara subs are the way forward. Now, once these are nicely in, make sure you get all those extra resting juices to go in there as well. We're gonna get in there and we're gonna turn these so each single meatball gets completely coated in that rich tomato sauce. You just want each one to be individually coated in all that lovely tomato sauce. And there's not a lot of tomato sauce here, and you don't want there to be too much. You want it to be just the perfect amount to coat each meatball and give you a little bit of juiciness on the side. Okay, these now look fantastic, really shiny and shimmering with that tomato sauce. And now to bring it together under the grill, we're going to add some basil leaves. It's just picked in and around, and we're gonna add some fresh ones at the end as well, but I like the idea that you get these kind of nice little pops of aniseed flavor from the basil as this cooks out. So just pop in the basil leaves in and around and nestle them in amongst that tomato sauce and those lovely meatballs. And now to bring it together, some grated mozzarella cheese over the top. So be generous with the cheese here, because that is the core element of this marinara meatball sub, because when this comes out of the oven, you want stringy cheese, tomato sauce, and then that can be all shoveled into that beautiful potato bun. So now we have our mozzarella in, it's time to get it baked off in the oven at 180 degrees Celsius, that's 350 degrees Fahrenheit. And this is gonna cook off for about like 10 minutes or just until that cheese is gone golden and oozy. And it might take a little bit less time, so keep your eye on it and just look for the cheese to go nice and melted. Now, our meatballs are out of the oven, and just have a look at that. Gorgeous golden brown, and the cheese should be melted enough to give us the quintessential cheese pull that is really important for these meatball marinara. So let's have a look. I'm gonna dive in here and see if we can get some cheesy. Oh, yes! Cheese pull is looking gorgeous. Steaming meatballs. I'm gonna waste no more time. We're gonna get these into our potato buns. I'm just gonna separate these out, and we're gonna stuff each one with plenty of meatballs and all that lovely marinara sauce. Oh, just look at that. Cheesy tomato sauce, beautiful meatballs. And I think these little buns are gonna take about 3 meatballs each. It just looks so glorious. It is total comfort food, and it needs really no much more other than a little bit of basil, some Parmesan cheese over the top to finish. But that for me is a sub that is good to go. So a little bit of Parmesan cheese to finish it off. And then just for a little bit of a fresh hit, some basil leaves over the top. And you are left with a beautiful sub that just needs to be eaten. So let's try some. Wow, that is so, so good. It's nothing like any of those store-bought sandwiches. This is the real deal. Really meaty, flavorful, salty meatballs in that rich marinara sauce. And then those buns, they are the perfect vessel. They're soft, pillowy, and you really don't need to toast them. This is all about proper comfort food in a bun, and that for me is a total winner summer bun. Give it a go, and if you want the full recipe, as always, I will leave it in the box below. You'll get it over on my website. And of course, subscribe to this channel for more recipes just like this one. Ring the bell for notifications, and leave a comment letting me know if you're gonna try this very tasty summer bun. Until then, I'm off to eat the rest of this, so I'll see you soon.